I'd like to call the meeting of the City Council for the City of Lake City for February 26, 2024 to order. Everybody stand for the pledge of allegiance on the right stand for the
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to gather and conduct the business of our community. We ask for your guidance tonight and what we do is pleasing in your eyes for the betterment of the community. We ask that you look after our citizens, our troops, and our first responders. In your name we pray. Amen. This time, will you call the roll?
Mr. Darmian?
Present.
Mr. Hill?
Here.
Ms. Young? Here. Mayor Witt?
Here.
Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Mr. Martin?
Here.
Chief Butler?
Here. Ladies and gentlemen, the Lake City Council has opened its public meeting since 1968. The city code has prohibited any person from making personal and pertinent slanders remarks or becoming boisterous while addressing the city council. Yelling or making audible comments when audience constitutes boisterous conduct. Such conduct will not be tolerated. There's only one approved manner of addressing the city council, and that's to be recognized and speak from the podium. As a reminder, persons are not to openly carry a handgun or carry a concealed weapon or firearm while the governing body is meeting.
Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
what should happen to a council or a citizen that violates this roll call?
They can be removed.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
The item is approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda as published, Mayor.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Opposed, like sign. Okay, persons wishing to address council. Mr. Warren.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for recognizing me to be able to speak. Sylvester Warren, 930 Northeast Joe Coney. Mr. Mayor, I hopefully when we get to the workshop that we will also have the opportunity to address attire. I think that council members should not be wearing prom outfits from the 50s and 60s. That's just my opinion. I think that it's a bad reflection on the council unless this is a throwback council meeting day. So, Mayor, as you well know, and the council is well aware of, the HR director has sent several complaints over to y'all from me as relates to my public records request, as relates to the city clerk. There's been no response. It's been over $2,400. I can't even inspect the records. I have not gotten the records. Also, Mayor, I was denied a candidate orientation because I wanted to record it. And it's just, there's no secret in this room. The city attorney was there. I think everybody at this point is aware that there is a March the 8th Commissioner Ethics hearing in which Ms. Sykes has to appear before the Ethics Committee and have a ruling for the Attorney General to come down on her about the findings of the investigation in which she lied about her not being left. No. These are facts. No. You cannot stop me and interrupt.
I can't stop you.
No, you cannot stop me from saying something that you said boisterous and nothing about what I said is boisterous. It's not. It is not slanderous. Why?
Okay.
Mayor, let me ask you a question. You're an attorney. Why did the Commission of Ethics take it up? Why are we having a hearing on March 8th?
I'm not gonna let you call anybody in this room.
I said that she lied on me. I didn't call her a lie. I said she lied on me.
I try to warn you, I try to tell you, and you won't listen. Please remove it.
Now you're gonna remove me, Mayor. I tell you what, then. So that's y'all agree with this? That's good. I like it. I like it. Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Mr. Glenn Bowden.
Mr. Mayor, I want to thank you for allowing me to speak. I have my right to speak. But let me just say this in my public comments, Mr. Mayor. I remember before Councilman Judge got elected, he used to walk in the city council meeting, walk up there, shook everybody's hand, did everything but get on his knees. Right around this, right there was not a problem. These tables, I have not seen a person with a handicap need to sit down at one time. That right there, not beyond that point, that crowd control, Mr. Mayor, the county commission don't have it, the school board don't have it, the water management don't have it. That ain't nothing but a desire to keep people silent. And I personally resent it. I'm gonna tell you that. Now, if you go for that, I can't walk up there and shake your hand before the meeting. I can't come up there after the meeting and shake your hand. What is this? This is a communion area? This is DMZ, this is no demilitarized zone? Why y'all go for this? Why? Explain to me, either in or out, why it's necessary to prevent me before the city council meeting. 10 minutes to 6, I will go there and whisper in your ear. I can't do it. Mr. Jim, I can't do it. But you should walk around and shake everybody's hand. Nah, I can't do it. Nobody else can do it. Why? Nobody go up there during the meeting.
We're gonna discuss it tonight.
I'm discussing right now in my 3 minutes.
Sure.
That's right. So don't interrupt me. I'm upset. You had Mr. Warren removed for no other reasons that's unnecessary. But let me use the part because I'm talking about during the meeting. At the last meeting, Councilwoman Young introduced an issue concerning using money from the RIDE fund. She said it was an emergency. You did not ask what was the emergency. If you declare an emergency for items, it need to be a real emergency. It need to be some equipment needs to be replaced. It need to be a pothole that open us up big because you ain't got no money to do it. What was the emergency? What happened when you do that, Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Young? When you do that, you actually impact the public's ability to speak. I didn't know it was on the agenda. I didn't come to the meeting because I was not feeling good. Had I known there was going to be a discussion about using $30,000 from the RIDE fund, I would have been up here asking some questions about why, what, and when. That was wrong, Mr. Mayor. There was a misuse of authority. An emergency, you didn't even ask what the emergency was. Now I think the Royal Rule of Order, somebody said, okay, what's the emergency? So I would suggest to you, Mr. Mayor, that you revisit that and give the public an opportunity to speak to it, because what happened? There was no opportunity for the public. The press couldn't report it. It was not in the agenda packet. I got the agenda packet the same time you all did. I stay home. And at the meeting, it's an emergency. Emergency for what? The money not going to be spent if they keep it until the end of the year. So what was the emergency? Man, that was wrong on your part. You should not allow it to be dealt with as emergency item. And I deal with it more when we get to the workshop.
Mr. Lilker.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. My name is Stu Wilker. I'm the publisher of the Columbia County Observer, and I'm located approximately 6.5 miles from the thriving metropolis of Fort Wayne. The reason I'm here tonight at this microphone at the present time is to talk about a Facebook meeting that was recorded in City Hall right across this hall here. This room is a public meeting space. This room. I can come in and record it if I can reach my recorder. Anybody could come in with a TV camera and record this meeting, as long as they don't disturb the meeting. And if I had a teeny tiny recorder, I could put it in my nose and record you guys. And I wouldn't have to tell you that I'm recording. Because Florida law is public meetings, you can record. This is a public space. That lobby outside is a public space. When you walk through the doors into the conference room, that's a private space. The meeting that was recorded by Mr. Warren, he's not here, but he did record it, it was pretty obvious. And it seems that the city attorney knew he was gonna record it. He knew, because it was mentioned at the meetings, that the city clerk did not give her permission to record the meeting. So what I don't understand, and maybe you can explain it to me, Mayor Witt, and maybe this board can explain it to me, maybe Mr. Martin can come up with a pretty good explanation. is that Mr. Warren was never told that this was a private space at the beginning. Halfway through he was, and told to shut the machine off. And then he would have had, from what I could tell, he would have had his candidate interview with everybody that he brought with them, and everything would have been fine. But your own attorney appeared to be more the attorney for Mr. Warren than he was for the city clerk. Now, if you have the same contract that you had and you represent the city councilman and the staff, I suggest to this board and to Mr. Martin that he was not representing the city when he allowed that meeting to be recorded. And I'd like to know why that's allowed, why the city clerk was just ignored. Mr. Warren can file, anybody can file anything that they want with the Ethics Commission. Surprising, sometimes they take it and sometimes they don't. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. But there's no opinion about what that space is across the hall and what the clerk's wishes were that night. And I hope that the city attorney, the new city attorney, who's of council, takes note of this, and the city council, and we start to follow the law. Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Next is John Cole.
I would like to really just ask a question, but first remember that you guys are elected officials and your job as a government official is to uphold the Constitution. There's a huge disconnect between the public officials and the citizens today. We see it daily. Part of our Constitution was created to protect citizens from our government. Most of the time when a politician is first elected, they want to make a change in the community. They want to do good for their people. But then they end up selling their soul to the devil. Power and greed takes over, then comes pride, and eventually they forget why they were even elected. And once that pride sets in, they no longer care about the oath that they took. They start lying, which makes for a great politician, but a really lousy public servant. So saying that, I would like to ask any of you if you could name 5 elements of the First Amendment. Any of them? No? Okay. As a country, we struggle with the First and the Fourth Amendment, but actually, I'd be impressed if anybody could name the Third Amendment, because that one's never used. But in the past few months, and even tonight, I've noticed that there have been a violation of the First Amendment on a few occasions. So we need to figure out which element of the First Amendment was violated. If not, if you don't know, there's a hint that you can Google. Look up the first and fifth element of the First Amendment. And we the people are to hold you accountable for your actions, which is what you signed up for. And that is one of those elements. So remember this, humility gets you a lot further in life than pride does. There's no place for pride in a servant. And if you're considered a Christian, then remember that even Jesus washed the feet of his disciples. So as you continue your service to the people, you should have that kind of humility. I want to make this public, but there was a First Amendment auditor that came through about a year ago, and she caught D. Johnson by surprise. And that man right there put Lake City, gave them a great name, because he knew exactly what he was doing. I'm very, very proud of you, and I commend you on that, and you're the leadership that this town needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Eileen Morello, I think I pronounced that right. Did I pronounce it right?
The name is Eileen Morillo, and I'm at 435 Southwest Pilots Way. I wanted to talk about decorum a little bit. As defined in the dictionary, the word council is outlined as follows: a body of people elected to manage the affairs of a city, county, or other municipal district. I've been present at different council meetings, and I can honestly say that a council is not what I'm seeing here. In many instances, the discussions are monopolized. The council seems to bow out. It is also of extreme importance that the citizens feel comfortable giving their opinions, free from reprimand on any given subject. As all of the citizens are part of this town and pay the salaries of the council members, it is logical that they get the opportunity to voice their opinion and bring ideas to debate when it moves them to do so. What I've been witnessing here has nothing to do with debate, but aligns itself more with what I would call oral flagellation. Decorum is inexistent here. I would even go so far as to say that there is a strong factor of manipulation that is taking place at these meetings. Moreover, there is a total disrespect orally toward the council as well as to the participants of these meetings who have been tolerating the rudeness of certain individuals for some time in spite of the rules of conduct read at the beginning of each meeting. I have had the experience of living in a foreign country for many years and can honestly tell you that this country still offers the best options in the way of freedom to its citizens. You do not want to be elsewhere. You can be assured, and you should know, that I have witnessed the ruling tyranny that presently exists in other countries. That I have witnessed the ruling tyranny that presently exists in other countries where citizens have no say. I also refer to the formality and respect that I and all where citizens have no say. I also refer to the formality and respect that I and all should willingly give at the start of every meeting here by standing and pledging allegiance to our flag, a symbol of freedom that was fought for us so that we can be here today. Prayer is also just as important, and even if you are not especially spiritual. I am not an expert at the unfolding of council meetings, but what I have so far witnessed is constant badgering of subjects that are of exclusive interest to some and not the majority. As we are here to debate, to have decisions ultimately made in tandem with this council, it is of utmost importance that all citizens feel a sense of freedom to express themselves as well as obtain satisfaction when decisions have been made. They should not be fearful nor threaten to participate. May I go on or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Denigration and the use of manipulation to gain one's own interest should not be a part of these meetings. Yet what I have so far witnessed is ceaseless chastisement by some actors as manipulative ploy for personal gain and not for the interests of the majority of this town. In addition, there should not be any question in our minds about the expenses incurred by this town. They should be justified, proven, and be at the disposal of every citizen. To conclude, the council should, in all cases, be respected. But more importantly, so should all the citizens of this city. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's all I had signed up. Under old business, we discussed possible action applicants for filling the vacancy of council member for City Council District 13. Mr. Sampson resigned December 30th. There's a vacancy. If less than 2 years and 60 days remain, then the council shall, within 60 days from that date, the vacancy occurred by a majority vote of the remaining members choose a successor. The 60 days will be February the 28th. We had a meeting January 2nd, and at that time we did it for 30 days to February 1st. During the February 5th meeting, we extended it to February 19th. One applicant submitted paperwork, however, he was not eligible, and we have one member, James Carter, who did file and is qualified. Mr. Bowden, I think you're the only one signed up to talk on this.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I would like to wait and see what the pleasure of the council, then I may have something to say to finish after the motion is made. Is that okay?
That's fine.
That's okay?
Yes, sir. Okay, so the council, we have an applicant from Mr. Carter. Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make that motion of Mr. James Carter to be City Council of District 14. 13, I'm sorry, 13, I'm 14.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Hill.
There's a resolution that can be read to enact that.
Okay. Mr. Martin, can you read that resolution?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. City Council Resolution Number 2024-018, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Lake City, Florida, appointing James Carter as council member of District 13 in accordance with the city charter and providing an effective date should the council wish to adopt. Resolution Number 2024-018, an appropriate motion would be to adopt said ordinance, adopt said resolution as read by title only.
Would that be your motion, Mr. Jernigan?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make that resolution number 2024-018.
Second.
I'd like to say that, I think Mr. Carter is well qualified, he sat on the zoning board. But I'd like to see more people interested in these positions, and we got elections coming up this year, I'd like to see people get out and, to represent their city and do good and all, so I'd like to encourage people to run themselves or get others. Ms. Sykes, will you call the roll, please?
Excuse me, Mayor, I believe you had someone who wanted to speak after the motion was made.
Uh,
Mr. Bowden wished to speak.
Did you want to speak?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Jernigan,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Ms. Young, Mayor Witt.
Yes. Okay, at this time, Mr. Carter will be sworn in by the clerk. If he'll come up, here.
Chop it out.
I, James Carter, do solemnly swear
I, James Carter, do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support and protect and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States
the Constitution and government of the United States
and the state of Florida,
and the state of Florida,
and that I am duly qualified to hold office
and that I will be qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well and faithfully perform
and that I will well and faithfully perform
the duties of council member
the duties of council member
of the city of Lake City, Florida,
of the city of Lake City, Florida,
on which I am now about to enter.
on which I am now about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Will.
Mr. Carter?
I messed up there.
It's the end of you, man.
All right, that's all the business we have. Any comments of council at this time?
I'd just like to welcome Mr. Carter aboard.
I would like to welcome him aboard as well. Good job.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, motion to adjourn this meeting and before we enter to the other one.
So move, Mayor.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No.
Man, we don't feel like that hour no more.
You got time to get the order?
I just don't want to break any. Be careful on this one, it's my last strike.
I'd like to, call the city council workshop for February the 26th, 2024 to order. Ms. Sargent, call the roll.
Mr. Darling?
Present.
Mr. Hill?
Here.
Ms. Young? Here. Mr. Carter?
Present.
Mayor Witt?
Yeah,
Mr.
here.
Johnson?
Here.
Mr. Martin?
Here.
Chief Butler?
Here. I think, ladies and gentlemen, the Lake City Council has opened its public meeting since 1968. The city code has prohibited any person from making personal and personal slanderous remarks or calling boasters while addressing the city council, yelling or making audible comments from knowledge constitutes boisterous conduct. Such conduct will not be tolerated. There's only one approved manner of addressing the city council, and that's to be recognized and speaking from the podium. As a reminder, persons are not to ever carry a handgun or carry a concealed weapon or firearm while the governing body is meeting.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I just want to make sure, if somebody violates your roll call, what would happen to that person or a council member?
They can be removed.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, this time, Mr. Warren.
Mr. Mayor, if we follow Robert's rules and you being the chair, we have to establish, at least it's the chair's job to establish, and I talked to you prior to the other meeting, that workshops are not supposed to have any time limits. They're designed to be interactive, so that the community can have an opportunity to discuss these. And so, Mayor, you're not even paying attention to me.
Fine.
Okay, so first,
I know extra time, but I'm not gonna give you 15 minutes.
no, Mayor, if you don't, you won't, not, if I were to cut you off, you would say like, that's wrong with me, right? Now you being disrespectful, you cutting me off. So let me speak. I mean, you got me on the first one, but I knew I was coming back on this one, you knew that, Mayor.
Okay.
So, so the thing now is that we have to say what the workshop is about. You're saying we're having a Decorum workshop, but there's no organization as to what the topic matter is. The Decorum is very vague, very broad, I'm sorry. And I think that there's specific things that need to be talked about. I mean, you take, for instance, we can talk about things as it relates to the council, as well as we can talk about things that relate to the public. We can talk about attire, for instance. Is that gonna be a part of discussion, right? Whether or not policies and procedures are followed, putting things on the agenda as an emergency item is not an emergency. And Mayor, you're the chair. There is no way you're supposed to allow that to go on. So you would be at fault for something like that. So Robert's rules are not being followed. Policy and procedure not being followed. As a matter of fact, this council voted not to do that again. 7 days that the agenda must go out prior to the community. That hadn't been happening. This council also voted and agreed that they would not allow any last minute items on the agenda that was considered an emergency, that don't meet the standards of an emergency. And that happened, Mayor, and you didn't stop it. So you're the chair, right?
Right.
And you got the gavel, and we've seen that you got the gavel and you used it against me in an inappropriate way, right? Because your statement says that one has to become boisterous, and I didn't meet that definition. I was actually relaying factual information that is in writing. And you kicked me out of the meeting for that. But that's on record, and that's why I always tell you, man, I love that these things are recorded. These things are one of the most powerful tools that you ever want to see. They hold information as it go up to the cloud, right? So it's a lot of council members' information is on this phone that I think that the federal government is going to be very, very pleased to hear about very, 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 very soon. So I definitely appreciate all that data. And also, Mayor, what about the fact that we gave money to a organization in which they don't even meet the standards of that fund? That was supposed to be money that we said as a community and as a board. And Mr. Jernigan himself, Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong, he told Mr. Johnson, do not touch any of that money until you see the family first. He was adamant about that. We can go back and look at the meetings. And Mr. Johnson took a meeting with me, with the mother, Mariah's mother, and Miss Terry Phillips. And we agreed to put a freeze on that money, and that money was gonna be used for a purpose that relates to the girls club building. Am I lying, Mr. Johnson? So why is it that the mama came and had a meeting with the city manager, myself included, and Ms. Phillips was there? A meeting was taken. It was taken. And this was agreed on, and now out of nowhere, this $30,000 gets spent and doesn't get spent on nothing related to what? Crime prevention, nothing related to youth activities. This girl lost her life, and in her memory, the first dollar spent was not spent on anything that she was a part of, that her life reflected, nor did the family give consent or was even approached about this concept. Because they told Mr. Johnson to contact me about anything as their what, Mr. Johnson? What did the family say I am to them?
Oh, the spokesperson for the family.
And you were supposed to?
Contact y'all with any changes that's coming up for the money to be spent.
And we had a meeting?
Correct.
And we talked about freezing the funds?
Correct.
And the funds didn't get froze? I'm not, this is a workshop, Mr. Mr. Mayor, this is not a workshop.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Because there's rules to a workshop that's different from a council meeting, am I correct, Mr. Mayor? Sir?
I'm aware of it.
No, I'm saying from a workshop, meaning interactive, this is what it's supposed to be. We're supposed to be discussing issues. So this is an issue that happened, and we all came up here and fought for Mariah. And 5 Points is moving. There's other schools. You open up a door, Mel, that we should refund that money back to the Mariah Fund. It was inappropriately done. It was wrongly dispersed. And if you dispersed it for everybody, then every elementary school should have the same opportunity to that money, which they shouldn't, because the Mariah Fund should have never been used in that capacity, Mel. Also, Mel, I think that one turn at the conversation should not be the end. I think as other discussions come up, I hope that the chair will allow us to speak on several topic matters as y'all discuss issues and bring them. So it'd be more of a back and forth as we work through this workshop, Mel. Is that okay?
Well, we'll see.
All right.
That'll be discussion when we get to it. Mr. Bowden?
Mayor, Council, I guess I didn't quite understand how the workshop worked. I participated in a lot of them. I thought a workshop was an opportunity for the council to talk about issues that you want to have a workshop on, and the members of the community have an opportunity to be a part of that conversation. I didn't think that as a member of the public, I had 3 minutes to talk about out of that on the workshop, and I don't even know what the conversation wanted to be. But let me just say this, I hope I get another opportunity. Decorum is just a part of this matter. The Robert Rules of Order control the city council meeting. And if that's fault, if you took control of the meeting and some of those things that you got a concern with and councilman got a concern, it would not happen. That's the bottom line. I mean, the meeting is in your hand. And so if I got disrespect, if I got loud, I got boisterous, then it's in your hand. I think it's silly for a council member to say to you, and if this happens, Mr. Mayor, what's going to happen? But he can't be removed. What's that all about? What's that all about? When you read this conversation, when they put this barrier up and that crowd control rope there, at the end of that segment you read, man, what you said, if I violate that, if I walk around in this no man land, this community area here, then I can be removed. Before he said that, you said, the reason it's handicapped, I want to be sure the public can see him. But then you say to me, as a former city councilman, as a lifetime member of this community, who've been from this side of this podium more than anybody up there, that I can't walk up here and shake your hand. I can't go and get a piece of peppermint out that thing there. But Mr. Johnson can walk up there before the meeting and do everything but get on his knees. But now I can't do it. And nobody ever got any comments about that. Mr. Johnson quoted in the paper saying it was a joint effort between the staff and the city council. Mr. Hill said he didn't know anything about it. So what joint effort was it? If you never stood on this side of the podium, then you won't appreciate how strongly I feel about this. It's an attack, I view, on my ability to be open and transparent. I go back again, when you get into the Robert Rules Order, and Mr. Warren spoke there just a little bit. Put something on the agenda as an emergency. And you all up on the city council accept it as an emergency. Now, explain to me during this workshop, what was the emergency about that particular item? And explain to me why you don't see that prohibits the public opportunity to participate. Because had I known, I'm repeating myself, had I known that was going to be on the agenda, I'd have came back under the weather and spoke to it. Mr. Warren would have spoke to it. But we didn't know what it's about. It's an emergency. Minute J gonna fall through, if Minute J was sinking in the earth, that's an emergency. But to spend the morale fund that was allocated around the conversation about gun violence, that was a topic for 6 months or more. There was 3 murders in less than a year. From December 2022 to December 2023, there was 3 murders. That's what the fund was about. Now, I ain't gonna get into that, but there was not an emergency, Mayor. So when you get to talking about the Robert's Rule of Order, follow that. And when somebody says I got an emergency, you should ask, what's the emergency? And if they can't declare what the emergency is, it should not be discussed. It suppresses my ability to speak to an issue and everybody else in the public. I'm talking for the public now. It's an insult that you put something on the agenda, $30,000, that the taxpayers already contribute. Every time you spend $1 in this community, a half a cent of that goes to the Columbia County school system. So I'm spending twice. As a citizen, like I said, I'm paying for it when I go to the store and buy some bread. Now I'm going to pay for it again. I was $200,000 set aside for prevention crime, youth program, and there's nothing about spending $30,000 in a move. That $5,000, you want to feed the city, feed the volunteer, that's fine. I would suggest you get $5,000 and put a food truck over there in Olester Park. There's about 10 people out there right now that need something to eat. But my point is this, Mayor. Let's talk about, not just about how we behave in the meeting, but how you're going to conduct the meeting. Because how you conduct the meeting got a lot to do with how I behave. So I look forward to this conversation, Mayor, and we need to talk about every other thing other than just whether somebody's boisterous and loud and name call. How you conduct the meeting, how y'all talk among yourself, that's a part of it too. Speak it to the microphone. I won't sit to the back of the meeting, I can't hear well. But I'm gonna tell you this, if I can't hear you, I'm gonna yell for you to speak up. Because, I don't want to sit up here because, I'm afraid.
Mr. Wilker?
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Stu Wilker, Columbia County Observer. I just have a couple, I'm real confused tonight. I believe there's a 3-minute rule that you guys go by, that everybody gets 3 minutes in this part of the public comment. And yet everybody goes over. So I guess everybody gets equal time, so everybody would get the longest time that the person had. Sort of like zoning. If somebody gets a variance and somebody else gets a variance and then somebody else goes to the planning and zoning board and doesn't get the variance, then they could sue the city because they're not equally protected or being treated equally. So if you're gonna have 3 minutes, then you're gonna have 3 minutes. And if you're gonna have forever, then you're gonna have forever. I've heard a lot of people blame individuals for what goes on at these meetings. Some people don't like attitudes, some people want to criticize people's relatives. People are all over the field. And they talk about Robert's Rules. Robert's Rules is not for anybody in this audience. Anybody that comes to this meeting, anybody that knows parliamentary procedure, attorneys should know that. Robert's Rules is for you guys. For the people that are elected and the people that have official public meetings, and if their rules say you go by Robert's Rules, if it's not covered in your rules, and that's what it says, then you need to go by Robert's Rules, and it has nothing to do with anybody here. What has to do with people here is what's in your agenda packet tonight. But before I get into that, one or two speakers brought up about not having this stuff in time. This has been going on for some time. Some of you will remember years ago during COVID, when the city attorney was Fred Coberline, they passed a resolution changing the rules, and then decided that they couldn't change the rules by resolution because nobody read the charter, and you can't do that. So all those rules that they changed didn't count. Nobody said anything because that's the way some folks do business, but it didn't count. So all the rules that speak to what the public can do, whether you can set up this thing or moats or whatever it is you want to do, give people unfettered opportunity to speak, should be in your rules, starting on page 15 or 12 of the agenda packet tonight, which says, well, it says, hold on, it says agenda and rules to the public. So it used to be, and it doesn't say this on this page, the page stuck, but it says it there somewhere. It used to be that the city clerk years ago, and you will remember, she set a limit, and she said she wanted the stuff in her office 2 weeks, 1 week, and stuff needed to be presented to the city clerk 1 week before the city council, so the public could be apprised of what goes on at these meetings before they show up. That would make sense. Who doesn't want to know what goes on at these meetings before they show up? Stuff would be in the agenda packet, and everybody was supposed to answer to the city clerk. City manager, utility director, city attorney, city councilman, and it became fair for everybody. But of course, Ms. Sykes will tell you that probably lasted maybe a month, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and then it sort of went willy-nilly, and people gave her the stuff whenever they wanted to, and all of a sudden she was stuck. So then they passed another resolution brought to you by the man who is now a judge, the former city councilman, Fred Coberline, that says it's okay. Now, this is what you guys passed. You, the city council, not all of you, but at least one of you maybe not even you, passed that she could just get it as long as it got done before the meeting. Is that okay for the city council? Does that show respect to the public? As long as it gets done before the meeting. So if it gets done 3 hours before the meeting or 4 hours before the meeting, that's fine. Now, at least the county passed it in and put it in their charter that it's going to be done a week before. So you can do that. And it appears that that's what you're here for to talk about tonight. The final thing I have to say about this, and it says addressing the council through presentation, public participation, manner of addressing the council, time limits, that's all in your rules now. So if this board is not happy with the rules, especially after listening to the citizens, then you gotta change your rules. Because what sense is having rules if nobody follows the rules? That's called anarchy, at least in the world that I come from. So I would suggest you look at the rules, determine what a proposition is, and this is my final thing, Your Honor, I thank you for indulging me. A proposition is something that you have to act upon. It's like if I were to ask to go out to dinner with Chevelle Young, and I'm going to make a proposition that we go out to dinner on Friday night. She could either say yes or no. Everybody in the room would know what that is. Nobody would not know. But a proposition isn't an idea. It's not a thought. It's not maybe we'll do this or that. So it's not fair to the public when the proposition, and that's what SB 50 meant. It says a proposition before the board, and I will tell you, it took the legislature about 6 years to figure out what it meant. So if there's a resolution, everybody knows what that is. They have time to talk about it. They should have 3 minutes to vote on it after there's a motion. If there's no motion, there's no proposition before the board. If there's an ordinance, it comes to be the same thing. So I am respectfully asking you, and I thank you for your time, this is not about any member that shows up at these meetings. This is about the rules that you make, and as mayor, your opportunity to enforce these rules. And if you don't enforce these rules, there's provision in the charter or the ordinances, I forget which, that somebody, they could vote and somebody else could run the meetings, or you could just ask somebody to run the meetings. But if these meetings go out of control, and you need these kind of barriers and these moats, sir, I suggest to you, and I would ask you to think about it, this has nothing to do with anybody that's on this side. This has to do with you and the city council. Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Okay. The last one is, Don Lawson.
Hey, my name is Ben Lofstrom. My only comment is in the very beginning, when your meeting first starts, you call out the names of all these different people. D. Johnson, Chevelle Young, James Carter, etc. And all of you have microphones, except for the people in the back. Which, if we're sitting here, that's fine, because we hear that. But if you're online or watching YouTube, which I have to do frequently, you can't hear them. And we've even had some people that sat down there that were interacting with the proceeding, but the online people couldn't hear them. So if, when we call the roll, we include them, then they're part of the meeting. So somebody may want to hear from them without them coming to the stand. So if that's the case, perhaps they should have microphones back there, or whoever comes sits here. If not, maybe their name shouldn't be called in the beginning as a sitting person with a mic, and if there's an issue, then they could just come up to the microphone. Just because otherwise you can't see them and you can't hear them. You hear a little mumble in the back and you can't really tell what they're saying. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Let's move along here. Item 1, discussion of decorum, okay? Anybody want to start out?
Okay, it doesn't look like nobody wants to start it off. I'll start it off for you, Mayor.
Okay.
I don't think we need to change anything that I could see from the policy. However, during the roll call, you need to let the when I say you need to, not you need to, I would like to see that when you read these statements, let the public and the people who's watching it at home have a chance to they'll have a chance to know exactly what would happen to a person if they do such. It's not nowhere in that roll call there that that little blurb. If it had that, if a person did this, they would be removed from the meeting. And if you read Decorum 2-46, it clearly states that the person shall be removed. Shall be. And I think, this is me again, I think that if you enforce that, I think the meetings will not get out of hand. I don't think there will be name calling. I don't think people's parents will be involved. I don't think that other members of the council name would be called, because everything has to be addressed through you. Everybody has to address things through you, and once you recognize and realize that somebody has gotten out of line, even if it's me, if I gotten out of line, I should be removed, warned, whatever the case may be. It just needs to say this.
We can reword that.
Please, if you'll do that, I think everything is there. To enforce it, once you put down the gavel, of course, the chief, everybody here knows the procedure and what's supposed to happen. I'm pretty sure of that.
I guess one of the first things that's been discussed several times tonight is 3 minutes. What's everybody's position on 3 minutes?
Chairman, I can't hear you. You need to speak up. I can't hear you.
I said, what's the council feeling on 3 minutes? Should we ever extend it, or just 3 minutes is 3 minutes for everybody and every subject?
Well, Mayor, I think the 3 minutes is fine. I mean, if a person is not get to the mic and start rambling, I mean, before he starts rambling, hadn't made their point, if the 3 minutes is up, give them a little time. But if they get up and start rambling, then that's something different. So I think the 3 minutes is good.
who determines whether it's rambling?
If they start just repeating themselves.
It's gotta be either or, either it's 3 minutes for everybody or extend the minutes for everybody.
If you give a person 3 minutes and they start repeating themselves, saying the same thing over, then you have to cut them off. But if they continually talking and hadn't made their point,
So what if they don't get to the point until after 5 or 6 minutes? You just gotta do 3 minutes.
that's just my opinion.
Well, we said we were gonna do 3 minutes a while back, and so I think that's where we ought to start. See how we do.
Can I comment on that?
Yeah, sure.
3 minutes is a long time for any of us to speak. However, if the rule says 3 minutes, we must comply to the 3 minutes. When the horn goes off, you can give them a warning or whatever, but when that 3 minutes is up, I think that you should enforce that.
I think that's where we start. Mr. Martin, it's been discussed and, Mr. Kennan does some research on it. When people speak to a, topic, I used to let them speak before we ever did anything. Then we'd make a motion and then we would discuss it in there. Then I've heard that we should make the motion first, then the public discussion. Is it a choice or is it one way or the other?
So, because the city has adopted Robert's Rules of Order as a guiding document for the conduct of its meetings, and Roberts provides definitions for what, or a definition for what is a proposition.
Right.
For that reason, you would have to accept the public comment after the motion is made, because that is what you have determined is your proposition, and the statute says they get to speak to the proposition. That said, statute does not, nor does staff analysis from the bill that implemented the statute in 2013. They do not provide a definition. They allow for the governing body to adopt rules to implement the statute. And many communities have adopted rules that define the proposition as a topic for action before the governing board. And the reason for that is to allow the public to be able to provide comment on the subject matter or the issue that is before the board for a decision prior to the motion being made, so that the board has the benefit of that public comment and input before they determine which direction they want to proceed on the issue before them. So really the council can determine which way it wants to go based on the way it defines what a proposition is in its rules. But because you've adopted Roberts, you've essentially, the full extension of that is that you're saying that the proposition is presented when the motion is made, and so you have to have the comment after the motion. If you want it before, it's really just a matter of adopting some language in your ordinances that redefine proposition in a way that it is not the actual motion made. So then the council could get the benefit of public input before it decides which direction it wants to go on a particular matter before it.
I got another question. Now that's a prime example what I'm talking about, the 3 minutes. Now, I didn't time it, but for him to get to his point, he had to go through all of that to say what he needed to say.
I'm a lawyer too, I can't say anything short. So.
Again, the same thing with Stu. Mr. Warren,
Hey,
I'm trying,
call my name.
well, anyway,
Yeah.
I'm trying to make a point.
Well, make a point with somebody else. Y'all don't make a point using y'all name.
Okay.
You want using mine.
No audience.
I'm trying to make, but anyway, Mr. Liker got up there and he said what he had to say and he went past the 3 minutes. He was constantly trying to make a point. That's what I'm saying. I say if a person get over and get up there and get to repeating themselves, then you have to stop them. But to get to their point, if it goes over the 3 minutes, well, I mean, you ain't got to be extreme about it. Just say, go ahead and get to the point. That's all I have.
Okay. What's everybody's position on the comments before we make a motion? I used to do it before, and that way, like he said, we do know what, the feeling of the audience is before we even make the motion.
Mr. Mayor, I like the flow of that better myself. I think having the privilege of their opinions is important.
Okay. I'll let y'all. That's what we used to do.
Well, that makes sense to wait to see what the audience has got to say before the motion is made. That keeps everything flowing. However, if we've already adopted one rule, we need to stick to that unless we decide to change it.
Right.
So right now, the rule is, Mayor, the rule is that we have a motion, then we let the audience speak, right?
That's Robert's rules, is what, Mr. Martin.
That's exactly what we should be doing, go by Robert's rule of order. That way, we don't open ourselves up. I mean, that's just an opinion. So far, it's just a rule.
Anybody else got it?
Mr. Mayor, just to clarify what Mr. Martin said, Robert's Rules defines it that way, but the council has the ability to adjust the ordinance to allow us to do it the other way, and many cities do that, correct?
That is correct. Other cities, counties, governing boards do it that way. That it's done in both ways, depending on the way their rules read.
Y'all have an opinion on that? I like people speaking first. And I understand what the rules say, so we do have to change it before we can do it. Got several want to speak, I guess, on these.
Mayor, so which way, I heard you say something like, how you wanted it, how you wanted us to, how it's gonna be conducted, can you explain it to, how we're gonna do it?
While we have Robert's Rules of Order, we have to do it after the motion like you want.
Yes.
If we want to do it different, then we need to instruct the attorney to change it.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, there was some question about the 3 minutes. The current ordinance does allow, it says that each person addressing the council shall stand at the podium or take a seat in front of the council, shall give his or her name. We probably need to take out the and address, in an audible tone, a voice for the record, and unless further time is granted by the council, shall limit his or her address to 3 minutes. So it looks to me like in the ordinance, additional time would have to be granted by the council.
Right.
So,
All right, Mr. Bowden, you want to speak?
Mr. Mayor and Council, as Mr. Stoops indicated, that the Robert's Rules of Order is for you all. It's not for me. And I think that part of the problem, Mr. Mayor, is that nobody on the city council ever been up here advocating on behalf of the public or advocating on behalf of those who don't speak for themselves. And so I don't think y'all can appreciate the need for people to be able to talk to you. Now, 3 minutes, Mr. Jennifer said, is a long time. But I'll sit out here and watch y'all talk among yourselves sometimes 5, 10, 15 minutes, and you get to talk and you still don't understand what you're talking about. So that applies to you all too. And so the frustration comes in is that we get up here and we talk, and you don't like what we say or how we say it, and we got to sit down. We got to sit down and listen to y'all sometimes. We don't even know what you're talking about. I've heard, I could call Mr. Hill's name because he knows what I'm talking about. I heard Mr. Hill talk directly to Ms. Young talk directly to Mr. Johnson. When the conversation be, Mr. Mayor, may I speak? There shouldn't be no back and forth between y'all. Because that's disingenuous and affects us. So the decorum, Mayor, applies to you all also. And if we can't get no respect from you all, then you shouldn't expect any respect from us. At the end of the day, 3 minutes is 3 minutes. And if I have something to say and I can say it all in 3 minutes, that's fine. But when you start interrupting me, if anybody, if I do ask you something, that's fine. We use our 3 minutes for public comments and make a point, and I almost need an answer, but you all we're just somebody talking, just talking to the wind. We're not gonna say anything about it. You know, get back to, and I'm gonna be on this for a minute, get back to the emergency item. I think that was out of the quorum. I'm gonna say it again. If you establish an emergency, you're not allowing the public an opportunity to speak to issue that's important. If there's an emergency, if the street lights go out and there's no money in the budget to fix the street lights, that's an emergency. If you establish an emergency and you vote on it, then you're denying the public an opportunity to speak to it. That's wrong. You know, and so it's more to just what we have to say. We need to get loud and get boisterous. Who's going to decide what it is? What's being boisterous? What's calling a name? If I get up and I say, all of y'all sound so stupid up here. I'm not calling you stupid, I said you sound stupid. And I'm not saying that, I'm just using that as an example. I'm going to be put out of me because I said you sound like you're stupid. I got a right to speak, man. I don't have a right to say it's fire. I can say going in the building, but you can't tell me what I can say. The First Amendment is the First Amendment. Dr. King said that one of the most important rights we have is the right to freedom of speech, because you take that away from us, then you take away everything else. It was Dr. King's ability to speak that made him impactful. It was Malcolm X's ability to speak that made him impactful. So yes, that's what I'm talking about. So now my 3 minutes up. This is a workshop. So how can you have a workshop and have a discussion about all of this and you limit the public to, excuse me?
That's why we're doing this.
Well, I would suggest, Mr. Mayor, that 3 minutes in some cases is not enough time. Sometimes it is. So either you're going to do the Robert Rules order, or you're going to allow us to be able to speak before we get. I would suggest to you, I have a real problem with a motion being made, a second being made. Now, and then you'll have a discussion. Now, if you're going to make a motion and get a second, then allow us to talk, that's one thing. But if you're going to make a motion a second and y'all going to talk about it among yourself, then you don't need to hear from me. My goal is to influence the discussion. If I'm going to come and y'all make a motion second and that's it, hell, I can stay home.
All right, thank you. Mr. Warren?
Not well.
Mr. Mayor, I think that here's the problem. You're not listening. None of y'all listening. But y'all ran behind us. Y'all wanted us to put bumper stickers on y'all cars. Y'all want us to campaign for y'all to get y'all elected. Had no problem with whatever we said to whomever we said it to get you here. Then you tell me that one of the 5 elements says, right, it's one of the 5 elements says, I have a right to readdress a grievance with my government. And I have the right to assemble. And I have a right to the freedom of speech. And there's 2 more, religion and so forth. Have any of y'all ever read Robert's Rule? Have you ever read Robert's Rule?
Absolutely.
Have you ever had a workshop that have any of these council members, have you made sure that any of these council members have read and know what Robert's Rule is? That's a thick book, man.
And you only know it, and I've read it because I love to read. But I can guarantee you, nobody else besides you and maybe the city attorney know what Robert's rule is. And Robert's rule is not binding. It is nowhere. You can search heaven and earth. Robert's rule is not binding. Robert's rule is a concept. I think just like it's a lady, I think it's Mary, somebody else's rule. So you can use either one if you want to. It's just a formality. It's not mandatory. You're the chair, and this governing body decides what it wants for its community. And the community has indicated time and time again that they want to be heard on the issues prior to the issues being voted on. So it is your job not to do what you want to do, but it is your job to do what the people who elected you tell you to do. That's what representation is about. You think you sit up there and you are dictators. No, we put you there to represent what we desire because we are doing other things in our lives and we're entrusting you to give us the things that we tell you that we want. And for the people who stand up here are the people who get the chance to be heard. Anybody out seeing you in Publix and Walmart and telling you about the meeting, if they ain't man or woman enough to come up here and speak to the issue, then they don't get a chance to be a part of the conversation, man. That's the problem. Y'all want to let all type of outside influences, all type of people catch y'all out in the public and tell y'all how y'all should be doing things, but they ain't coming up here to the podium and microphone. And I would suggest, Mr. Carter, you've been a part of various meetings over at, and I love the way y'all run things over at the planning and zoning. Y'all don't have a time clock. Y'all don't even have a time clock. Don't even believe in one. Am I right or wrong? Well, I think the only time y'all ever use one, if you would, Mr. Mayor, I want to engage, if Mr. James don't mind, he has the right to engage me, according to Robert's rule.
Mr. Mayor, I think what he's referring to is in planning and zoning, granted there's usually about 2 to 6 people at those meetings. We generally don't use the clock unless there's a lot of people who want to talk. So that's just how Mr. Chair Leidig runs the meeting.
Okay.
Mayor, to wrap up, I would suggest that we get immediately, Mayor, because from my understanding, you're indicating as a chair that you would love public input. If I understand correctly, Mr. Carter said he would love public input from the community. Mayor, what does it take at this point to move the attorney to do what needs to be done to redefine a proposition so that the community can speak prior to a motion?
Well, that's what I want him to look into.
You want him to do it? You want him to do it? Or so as a chair, are you telling him to, that's what I'm asking, are we getting him to do that?
We haven't finished. I just stopped because everybody wanted to talk and I've got a pile of people wanting to talk. When we get through, I mean, me and Mr. Carter want to do it before. Mr. Jernigan wants to do it after the motion. Maybe we just ought to put it on the agenda to do, but that's for later. Mr. Wilker?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would just reiterate that I don't know what cities the city attorney's been to. I've been to cities and counties all over North Florida. I don't know that everybody has separate rules. Some of them do, some of them don't. Some of them rely on Roberts. Some of them rely on Sturgis, which is a very popular thing, a little simpler than Robert's rules. Nobody has anything like this that I've ever seen anywhere in America. And I think this city council needs to look at this stuff and figure out why it's here. That's why we have rules, so you don't have to have all this stuff. This is a good idea, but this stuff, I couldn't even put my microphone down tonight. I couldn't, I had to lean over. And the chief said that they could turn it on. I said, don't touch my equipment. I said, I'm not asking to borrow your gun. You can leave my tape recorder alone. You guys have the responsibility of making these rules. Robert's rules is for the council. So Mr. Morton's comments are just misplaced. Robert's rules defines what a proposition is, not for the members of the public. It's for you. It's for you. You can figure out what the legislature meant. That stuff is changing constantly in flux. And all you gotta do is go to court, and you'll see. The governor says one thing, somebody else says something another, and then everybody's in court. So lawyers can never agree on anything. That's pretty clear. But it is clear that Robert's rules is for this board. You don't have to go by Robert's rules. You can make your own rules, like you do in Alachua County. And then they say, I think it used to say, if we get in a fix, then we go by Sturgis. They don't even recognize Robert's rules, because Robert's rules can be difficult. But this is the question that I have for you, and for your attorney, is, so if you're gonna discuss something before the motion is made, and then you guys, in your infinite wisdom, and gals, say, you know, we don't like what this is. We're gonna make a different motion, AKA the proposition is different. Does the public then get the right to speak on what you guys have just decided? Because now you've changed the game mid-inning. Or if it's 9 innings, you change the rules in the 5th inning, thanks to your attorney who says, well, we're just gonna define the proposition any way we want. Well, that's ridiculous, because then what does the public do? What are these people that come up here and they spend their time looking at the material and trying to get prepared for a meeting? They read what the resolution is or what the motion is. They expect you to second it, but you want to hear what you say, and then you change it, and then do they get another chance to address the city council, Your Honor? Council people? I don't think so. So I don't think the decision that the public influences is the decision that you agree when you second the motion. That's the proposition.
Okay,
And I don't think it's any different. Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Lofstrom?
Quick question, and I probably don't know enough about it, but is there any chance that someone could make a motion and then not get any second, but just make a motion and then hear public comment before a second was asked for? Is that any way that we could go with Robert's rules, you know, as far as making a motion, but then you'd also hear public comment before someone made a second, and maybe there will be no second after the public comment?
I think you have to have a motion and a
Or does it have to be a
second.
motion and a second? And if there's a motion and a second, then, as has been said before, why should we even show up? Because it makes no difference. You know, once you've made your decision, you know, and I say something different, unless you're gonna make a whole new motion saying, oh, let me recant what I just made,
Right.
which almost never happens, you know, then it's hardly worth coming. So keep that in mind.
Thank you. Alice Decker?
My name is Alice Heckard. I live at 222 Southeast Claudia Way. First of all, I want to thank you guys for the job that you do. I think it's tough being you. I wouldn't want to be sitting there. However, I would like to see more of a spirit of collaboration and cooperation between you. I had several points to make, but I was late tonight for other reasons. But contrary to what has been said, Robert's Rules is binding as long as the organization adopts them. They are legally binding. Robert's Rules keeps order in most meetings. In a lot of meetings, you can't stand up here and do this. I would have had to get on the agenda to speak to you in most city council meetings. So I appreciate this. I don't appreciate emergency agenda items being added at the last minute for the obvious reason that nobody knows about them. There's been no discussion. There was one last week that was, nobody had a chance to even know what that was about. And I felt that the school board should have been represented here on that too, if that was going to be the case. But that's not what I want to talk about here. I have been disappointed in what I have seen go on in this council as far as the behavior and the decorum of this body. Those behind me. You guys sit there and take it. And I asked you last week, why did you let yourself be denigrated and spoken down to by a member of this constituency? And you said because it's the First Amendment. No, it is not. It is not right or polite or even, I'm lost for words because I was so upset about it. But you deserve the respect that your office demands. They elected you to be here. So they must think you can do the job somewhere. And for you to sit here every single week and take criticism on how to do your job seems to me a little bit ridiculous, especially when that criticism comes at you from an impertinent, boisterous attitude. Now, your little blurb here in the beginning about impertinent, you take a lot of impertinence from here. You shouldn't have to. You guys need to be respected for what you do. You work long and hard, and some of you actually have other jobs, I believe. So what I want to say is that you deserve some respect in this body, in this forum. The second thing, and the last point I want to make, because I've only got a half second, I'm a veteran. I'm married to a veteran. My father's a veteran, was. My son, my brother, we're all veterans. And if you're going to stand up here and speak your piece, because people died for you to do that, then golly gee, stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. Stand up for the prayer. Show some respect to this body. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, back to the council. Anybody got any more topics?
Mayor, I think you, Mr. Mayor, can I speak? Sure. Okay, I think you got this section here, 2.46, decorum, by adding, this is basically almost like forcing your hand. Because when somebody gets disrespected or they become boisterous to this council, or if the council become boisterous to a citizen, it's almost like we force your hand to do something. However, I think that if you don't act, and then the councils make a motion or try to get some order, and then somebody gets a second and somebody gets removed, that's showing that the meetings are getting out of hand. And of course, you hear the same thing we hear. And we want to be protected. Every last one of us want to be protected, respected. And I'm looking at the audience out there. Everybody out here wants to be respected. They want to be protected. And when that doesn't happen, people feel a little bit on the edge about coming to these meetings or even listening to them, because it appears everybody don't get up there and be rude and disrespectful. We have some people that get up there and voice their opinion in a respectful manner. Then we have others that gets up, voice their opinions, and what they think that may not be boisterous, we may think that it's boisterous. So something has to give. Something needs to be done. So if we have to do that, which I don't mind doing it, and it's been it's wrote out here, and I think that needs to be added to your to your blurb. I don't have a problem with that either. So just keep that in mind, Mayor.
And I've read it, I support it, and I like to be on the agenda.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I appreciate it.
Mr. Warren?
Mr. Mayor, I want to respond to the whole idea about decorum. So if people get elected and the job comes with criticism, the job comes with praises. That is a part of being an elected official. That's a part of being a human being. That goes on in households and families. That's human nature. And when a elected official, and I correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's been, let's just say countless times, let's say 4 or 5, this has been to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court has ruled that I can go as far as to lie about you in my public speaking. And the Supreme Court says, because you are elected, I have that prerogative to do so
as a citizen. There has been several rulings on this by the Supreme Court. And you can ask the city attorney. He knows that I know what I'm talking about because I'm well versed in this area. Just like I'm well versed in Public Records 119 requests that I don't get that y'all are in violation of. That's a sunshine law. But what the problem is that we have, and I take full responsibility for this. I'm gonna go ahead and make this public. We as a community, myself, I don't know whether or not my other friends want to take responsibility. We have, in my community, we have elected some people that are not of the magnitude, nor the experience, nor the comprehension, nor the breadth of wisdom, nor the experience to hold office. We have done that. I take full responsibility for campaigning for people who don't have that ability. There are people that's sitting on the dices right now. If you took them and sat them down, they can't say what their role is. They can't even make a motion properly. And so that is on the citizens. But when it comes to standing up for the pledge, let me tell you this, Mayor. Everybody got a background about their family history serving. Do you know that every one of my uncles served? My Uncle Danky served. He just retired as a warden from the prison. Do you know that my Uncle Muttley served? He works for the Jacksonville Police Department. Do you know that my daddy served in the National Guard? Do you know that my Uncle Gary Baker served? So my family, my two sisters served. So I have the right, when they fight for rights, I have the right to either stand or sit. This is a free country. Nothing is obligated about me having to stand for a pledge or stand for a prayer. Period. There's nowhere in the Constitution that says that. I have choices. Now, when we were slaves, we didn't. I'm free. I was born free.
Okay, Mr. Bowden.
Mayor, I promise I'm not gonna keep coming up here, but I did want to speak to standing for a flag or saying the Pledge of Allegiance. On April the 4th of 1968, the day that King was assassinated, I departed this country, going to Vietnam, served a year over there, 173rd Airborne Brigade Infantry. So I know what it is to serve. I personally served. Got bit by a snake, caught malaria, came back to this country full of addicted to drugs. They had never used drugs in my life before I went into the army. So if I don't want to stand for the flag, man, in America, I don't sit, but if I did decide that I didn't want to, there's no rule to say I have to. If I don't want to stand while you reading the prayer, reciting the prayer, I have a right to do that. That doesn't say that everybody must stand. If that's in the ordinance, does the ordinance say I got to stand to salute the flag? When I was in high school, they taught a class, Americanism versus communism. I took my black aid in Vietnam to fight communism, and I should have stayed my black aid here fighting racism. And now you're gonna tell me 20 years later, or 50 years later, I got to stand. But when I came back from Vietnam, I was called everything except a soldier. I got back to Lake City, still segregation. When I got back to Lake City, there was still dirt roads everywhere. And now people gonna tell me if I can't stand. If I don't want to stand, I don't want to stand. Folk talk about praying, they probably even go to church. So I'm telling you now, don't come with no rule telling me I got to stand for the pledge. Because there's no law to say I got to stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the United States, justice for all. Well, the problem is I don't see justice for all. The other thing that I want to mention, and I'm not going to get up and talk about the quorum no more. It seems to me that if this what you call, you do this to insist on the quorum, I'm going to go back to it again. I don't know no reason, man, none whatsoever, that you got a sign there that says we cannot go past that point, that's for staff only. And I'm going to remind Mr. Jones, it's hypocritical. So what's different now, Mr. Jones? What's different now? You up there, so I can't walk up and I can't walk up and shake your hand and shake your turn hand and shake Mr. Hill's hand and shake. I can't shake your hand anymore. Why? I can walk to a metal table that ain't got no medals on. There's a police officer with a gun, a taser probably got one on his ankle. There's one up there got a gun on the table, and there's two people out, and there's two outside. Mr. Jenkins said that we want to feel protected. Protected from who? Protected from us? You afraid of us? The county commission not. The school board not. Water management not. So what about this? It don't make any sense. I take it personal. I think you personally attacking me. That's how I see it.
Wrap this up on Decorum and move on to the item two. Anybody else got anything on that? I'm ready to move to item two.
Mayor, on Decorum, there are several areas that administration wanted to go through. Do you want us to kind of go through them, do some strike throughs and put those in an ordinance to come back?
Yeah.
I know, we had talked about, possibly, further expanding like items that can go on a consent agenda and some other items, just to kind of clean up a little bit of wording that's already in the code itself.
Okay.
Would that be okay with the council if we do that?
Sounds good. Yes, ma'am.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. All right, item two is application policy for grant funding request 5,000 max. Ms. Phillips?
Terry, did you say this one's not the right one?
Yeah. He's sending around that one. Sorry about that.
Ms. Phillips, is this document different than what was in the packet?
Yes, there's a little bit added to it. Okay. Okay, we've been working on the application for grant funding. We've come up with a couple of different things, sent it out to council to get some of your input on it. I had one council member get back with me. His information is in red that he wanted to see, maybe get changed. So any input, we would love to hear. We did I added some other question suggestions. I've gone to a bunch of different cities on their websites to see different applications and all, and these are some of the questions. So if I did not put them in the application, we can always add them to it as well. So there's some suggestions there. And then we came across another city, and it's called the Mayor's Matching Grant Program. This is in the back of your packet. And it's modeled after another city's program, and I think it's a really good idea of how we could, do our program. It is a matching program, and it'll show you how, that we would match it. We would have, and back here where it says, let's see. On the selection criteria, it does say review panel. That would be the city council. I would have to change that. You would actually do a point system to see, which organization would receive the funds. The very last page. So basically what I need is just some guidance of what you're looking for. This is a lot of information.
Right.
And if you could go over it and give me some input within the next little bit, and we can, get the draft up, ready for approval. Okay, any questions?
Everybody could go over it, and I don't know if we'll be ready next week, but I guess we can get comments to her. But I think we ought to wait at least a couple more weeks before we actually vote on that.
Mayor, just to clarify, you said we're gonna bring this back in a couple of weeks to vote on the application, or are you directing staff to move forward and get something drawn up, or y'all wanting What are we doing just to clear it up a little
Well,
bit?
she said she wanted us to look at, I guess we could get with her, and then y'all could take the input from the council, and then we could, if we need to approve it, we could do it at that, if not, just, get an application that we can use. I think this is a lot better than what we've had in the past, so I think we're ahead of the game.
I think we could bring it back as a resolution and let them look at it.
I mean, that's what, if
Yeah,
y'all need more
that's-
time to add
yeah.
or delete, we can just bring it back at
That's
the next
streamlined.
meeting. Yeah. We'll just get some meetings scheduled with Ms. Phillips and myself, and we can get your feedback and get it put in there and bring back a resolution.
Right. Mr. Jordan?
What I would like to say is, I had a chance to, to look over it. I think that, I just want to thank, our acting city manager and, Ms. Terry Phillips for the great job of putting this application together, because usually, there's nothing in anywhere, we just donate and give, funds, and that money is important, so this seems like, we do have a guideline. So, I just want to thank them for, putting this package together.
Mr. Warren?
It's amazing, we talk about guidelines and we talk about how important it is to be cautious with the money, but we laid emergency items on the agenda. And we gave away $30,000 out of a murdered child's fund to a program that does not even represent her, Bill. And how much money do we have allocated toward grants? What are the grants exactly going to be for? And where's that money coming from? These are questions that I won't answer, by the way, too, Mel. And what would be and who would be, because that's what we're stuck at. Like, these conversations, I'm like, it begins to make no sense as to listening to y'all from the audience. Y'all think that there's an issue with us from the podium. You'll be surprised as to what we think about y'all from the audience. And so that's a two-way street. What are we talking about here? What are we talking about? I'm lost.
We're talking about it the first of this.
No, I'm saying what we're talking about now, Mel. You telling me about what we talked about in the past. What are we here discussing now?
What we talked about back in October and how we wanted some guidelines and we wanted an application like this, so there was some, more formality to it.
Mayor, you're missing my point, and that's another problem. I'm asking you, I understand that we're here because something previously took place. I'm asking you tonight, what are we here to clarify on? What are we here to do tonight as it relates to this issue? So it sounds like we have not discussed it. What is it? We're not discussed it. We have not discussed it. And I guess my other thing is, how much money is in this pot? How much money?
This will get discussed in a couple of weeks.
How much money is in this pot?
Mr. Johnson?
95,000. We took 5,000 out of the 100,000 and moved it over to NIBLAC for the food truck.
So we got $95,000 that people are gonna come and pitch as if this is Shark Tank for $5,000. And so it's only going to be able to supply potentially, because up to $5,000, 19 people.
Mayor, can I comment?
Yes.
That's why we're discussing the application. Our initial plan was up to 5,000, but it has been recommended by a council member to bring it up to 15,000. So it's not actually set in stone yet. That's kind of why we put it in the parentheses.
If we're not prepared, why are we having these meetings? If we're not prepared to have stuff on the agenda, why are we having this on the agenda? Like, there's a huge miscommunication between city manager and you all. Because this should have been known prior to now that this crap ain't together. And then you wonder why. And let me tell you another thing. Y'all got a big misconception with boisterous. This is passion. And if you live where I lived at, and you've gone through what I've gone through, and you've seen this stuff, you will have this level of passion. If you had more passion like me, more would get done, and a lot less of this would be taking place. That's what passion does. This is not boistering. Right? Yeah. So why is this on the agenda? It's not even.
For us to take it, read over it, because it just gave it to us, and in a few weeks, we're gonna vote on it.
But Mayor, you could have, the city manager could have gave you all each one of this in y'all private meetings that y'all supposed to take with him at least once or twice a week.
We did.
But you put it on the agenda and waste our time. We came up here and we're not even discussing nothing.
Okay, well, let's quit then. All right, I think we've got that, so just comments of council.
Man, I had signed on one of those pieces, I put green on it.
Okay, go ahead. Come on.
I ain't spending no time with the city manager.
Mr. Mayor, this was put on this agenda as a workshop item. When I looked over the agenda package that the clerk sent out, it was in there. So it just seems to me. So what happened, if I took the time to read over it on my little phone, on my iPad, so what did y'all do since Thursday?
I looked at it.
You looked at it. But this is a workshop, so you should have some discussion about what you determine from. Each one of you should have something to say about where this is going. And so you come up with some rules now in terms of how you're gonna apply for it. But last week you spent $5,000 from it without any rules, that's where we're gonna come from. So who gonna control how you all decide what you're gonna do? You want me as a nonprofit to write out something, this is why I wanna do it, but either one of you as a member of city council can say, I wanna get $5,000 for the veteran to go fishing. And I'm a veteran, I don't fish. There gotta be some guidelines, man. You all can't sit up and just spend money as if it's your money. Let's go back to the $30,000. That's not your money. The money belongs to the public. Keep in mind, man, I'm gonna repeat myself so it'll sink in, so at the next real meeting you talk about it for real. We paid for it. I campaigned for it. I had a big old 4x8 sign in my yard saying, vote for the Hampton sales tax. I didn't campaign for it to take $30,000 out of a fund that was set up aside for morale to spend money on a second time. Now this is something, either one of y'all, the rule said that if you voted for it, the attorney can spread you, that y'all can bring it up for reconsideration, the prevailing side, so everybody else prevail. And if you think the only people in this community got a problem with spending $30,000 from the fund and just me and Sylvester Warren, you're fooling yourself. The lady spoke earlier and said she got a problem with the emergency. It was not an emergency. So I would encourage you at your next city council meeting to have this on the agenda for some reconsideration, because it's wrong. It takes advantage of the public, it disallows the opportunity to speak to it. And I'm gonna say again, man, it came to my agenda package, I read over it. I would expect there to have been more input from you all, the city council members. Well, we'll deal with it 2 more weeks from now. Well, maybe send it out on Thursday or on Friday may not be enough time. Maybe you need to go back to the week in advance to give you all an opportunity to read over these things. If I take the time to read some of it, then you all should take the time to read some of it. It's not disrespectful to have some concerns about whether you all doing your job or not. It's more than just sitting up here making a motion. I move that we do it. So do what? It goes 2 ways, man. You all gotta respect us for it all to get respect from us. I mean, I just don't see it.
Okay, comments of council.
Is this before adjournment? Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to thank you and council again for the appointment. And to Lake City, I'd just like to say this is a tremendous honor. Honestly, I've thought about it since I was a teenager. And I don't know that I could say it's anymore, but I can say that no one who's ever sat up here is more eager to positively affect and serve their community than I am. So, thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to do it. Anybody got any? Motion to adjourn?
So we'll get.
Thank you.
Mayor, I thought you said,
No, it's done.
Mayor, I thought you were gonna address the city attorney.